so much for taking the time to do it. Simply this, so far today, you've been having a good day.
Yeah, it's been spot on. Been at work, did some stuff, came home doing this.
And I
So
won't keep you, I will not keep you too long so you can enjoy the rest of your evening. Bigger picture. So we've gone from a day now. Why don't you look at the past year? It's been a great year for you guys for Rituals. It really, really has. Are you satisfied with what you've been able to accomplish this year so far?
absolutely, yeah. I think we when this year started out, like we honestly didn't think that. Well, nothing that we've done over the past sort of 4 months was even on the radar at the start of the year. So we were just sort of planning our own thing at the beginning of the year. So we had like an EP in the works and stuff like that, and we were just chipping away at that. And then the whole Kerrang deal thing came along, and sort of wrapped everything up into a ball and propelled it into the stratosphere sort of thing. So it's been a crazy sort of few months, but yeah, so I think we've achieved pretty much everything that we wanted to do ourselves and then some.
It really has. On just looking in from the outside, it's been an incredible thing. I mean, I have to ask, have you been able to come down from download yet?
Not really. I think like it's starting to sort of settle down a bit now because it's been, almost 2 months more or less. But it was pretty surreal. And thinking about it now, we've obviously got lots of photos and videos from it, but it's looking at those kind of validates that it actually happened. But it was just a really sort of intense weekend of because not only was the weather insane as well, it was like super hot, but the whole festival itself, irrespective of us playing, was just a crazy time with all the bands and everything else going on, the sheer amount of people there. And then with the addition of us playing as well, it was a bit of a fever dream.
Yeah, like the excitement building up to it, it comes, it goes so fast, and the come down, as you say, start to wonder if it really happened. It was a sold out the first time downloaded, sold out. So what an
Yeah,
incredible time to play.
absolutely.
It's going to be a great memory, basically. Glad you got the evidence.
Oh yeah, it was, if anything, it's going to be something that we'll all remember sort of forever. Whatever happens after this, the first time that we played download was it's just a really special moment. And I think we have sort of come down from it in terms of, yes, we've all gone back to work, and yes, we're doing sort of normal band stuff now. Like we're still going out and doing the shows that we had planned and stuff, but for the fallout from download is still continuing. And in terms of we haven't come down from it in that respect. So it's done so many things for us and probably will continue to do so.
Have you just sticking to Dan at the moment? Have you noticed an uptick in people talking about you? So I can only I wasn't at download, but many of my friends and wife and family did go. And after they come back, I'm like, hey, okay, cool. Who did you see? Who did you check out? Anyone that I didn't know that you just went along to see, and so on, that kind of thing. And your name kept coming up with
Oh
different
wow,
groups of
okay.
people. Oh, we saw this band Rituals. They were, they were this, they were that, they were good, they were this song, really like this part, and so on, that kind of thing. And I'm wondering, have you noticed that yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So our in terms of streaming numbers and things, that's definitely gone up. But in terms of people that are popping up on social media, etc., with that exact thing, or we saw you with download, either out of curiosity because we were the first band on, or because people were trying to get out the heat, or because they just wanted to see who would won the Kerrang radio deal competition. So there was a lot of people that kind of knew who we were through to people had no idea what we even sounded like. We could have been a prog jazz rock band for all they know. But the feedback has been brilliant, and it's they've whenever we see a new comment on social media or whatever saying, oh, we checked you guys out at downloads and we'll be coming to see you again next time. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd imagine the curiosity as well was a little bit of safety, considering you were coming from the Krang radio deal as well, and obviously Krang's iconic status is doesn't need mentioning, really. How did that come about? I mean, did I don't really know that much about the Krang radio deal. Did you apply? And
Yeah. So it was, I think Ewan, our guitarist, applied, filled in the form on the bus.
mm,
Because it's one of these sort of competitions as a band where you kind of you would enter it because you'd be silly not to, but you don't expect to hear anything back, or you don't necessarily expect to get through to the second round and the third round.
yeah,
Um, but we applied and then we kind of forgot about it. And then the next thing we were getting an email saying, well, you've been whittled down to the final selection of bands. And then it was the final 10 bands. And then it was that we'd won. So it all happened really fast as well. I think they ran the heats were like, I think there was 6 or 7 heats. And so that ran over 6 or 7 weeks. And then it was all wrapped up and then the winner was announced. So it was really fast.
you remember how you felt when you were announced as winners? Because of course you knew what it entailed if you won.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, Kerrang Radio, the way that they did it was pretty expertly done because they kind of did a little bit of a prank on us.
Oh no.
They punked us a little bit in the best way possible. So they sent an email asking if they could interview us because they're interviewing all of the finalists. And it was just going to be a casual interview on sort of what our experience of the competition was like, etc. So me and Lewis were kind of sat waiting for this call to start, and there was some basic questions that was asked, and then at the end, Sophie K kind of dropped it in there and said, "So, what would you do right now if I told you that you were the winners, or that you were the band that had actually won the deal?" And we were like, "Oh well." I think I actually said I'd pick this MacBook up and I'd launch it across the room
No.
because that's kind of how I would feel about that sort of the prospect of winning and playing download, etc. And then they told us that actually we were the band that had won, and I didn't know whether to fulfill what I said I would do and destroy this MacBook or keep it where it was. So I didn't. I left it where it was.
Expensive.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's how they revealed to us that we'd won, you know. So they got a genuine reaction out of us.
Mm.
I think if they told us by email and then done an interview with us, we would have been a bit more subdued, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. That's amazing. I love it. And congratulations on that, playing down. And of course,
Yeah.
we are so very close to the release of your new EP. I found myself in the dark, out August 3rd via Marshall Records. Where is your head at right now with it? Are we at the stage where you just want it out and you're tired of kind of hearing the tracks and you want it to go on out into the world at its own 2 feet and hear what people think of it? Or are you still enjoying the ride?
A little bit of both. We're definitely enjoying the ride because everyone at Marshall's been fantastic with the whole release. And I'm not just sort of saying that they've really helped us out with this one. And you know, we also have, when the EP comes out, we have a video coming out for the next single, which is called Cataclysm. So we're really desperate for everyone to hear it, but we're also enjoying where things are going, in terms of getting interviews with guys like yourself, talking about it, promoting it, and generally doing a lot of things that we probably wouldn't have been able to do if we were doing it on our own.
Okay. So you've really
Um,
noticed the difference there.
yeah, 100%. But having said that, we're already working on the next record. So it never really stops for us. And it was the same with the last EP that we self-released, Show Me the Signs. We were already, before that was even out, we were already sort of halfway through this one that's coming out. So the process sort of never ends. So we're about 2 or 3 songs into the next one, just as this one's coming out.
I get it. So you know, you're talking, you're here, you're doing interviews, you're talking about what you're about to release, but of course your head, as you say, is already kind of moved on. It's focused on the music that's going to be coming in the future. It's incredible that
Absolutely.
you are that busy. Um,
Yeah.
was this, you mentioned something at the start, but I'm going to just make sure I understood you correctly. Was this EP then always going to happen, regardless of anything in regarding the Kerrang radios the deal? Or did it anything change because of the radio deal?
Well, it just so happened that we had 3 songs like ready to go. So we
Mm.
didn't have to write anything new for this release. And the the deal was it was going to be a 3-track EP. So it just so happened that everything lined up really nicely, that we had 3 tracks ready to go. So all we had to do is go and track it at Marshall Studios.
Mm.
Um, so it was kind of it was the timing was perfect. So nothing changed. The only thing that would have been different is where we tracked it. Uh,
Okay, of course.
so it was the drums were actually done. So my part was already done. Um, but the other guitar and bass and vocals was still yet to be done.
Mm.
And we were already in the process of doing that ourselves. And then the deal happened. So we were like, all right, well, we'll just go and track that at Marshall.
So you would have definitely, those 3 tracks, you would have released it as an EP regardless. You wouldn't have gone individual singles or anything like that.
Maybe, yeah, we might have done that because that's what we did with the last EP. We released them as 3 singles. So maybe the sort of the release order might
Mm.
have changed. But in terms of the actual songs themselves, they were um I think maybe a couple of guitar parts changed whilst we were down at Marshall when we were kind of in the moment. And vocal lines maybe would have changed a little bit, but structure wise, it all stayed the same.
Would when you had these 3 tracks and you're thinking about what you're going to do, did you have a vision for what you particularly were going for, what you wanted to do with these specific 3 tracks, what you wanted if you released it as an EP, what you wanted it to look like?
Yeah, somehow these 3 tracks ended up being sort of the heaviest ones that we've done.
Mm.
And I don't know. I think that must have been everyone's sort of frame of mind, or maybe Ewan's frame of mind at the time, because he's the one that comes up with the riffs. So the stuff he was sending over, well, like really heavy. Like we've got a track on this EP which is in drop G. So it's all of other tunes have been in C.
Mm.
So it's kind of they were already getting heavier. So it was that's hence why the title of I Find Myself in the Dark came along, because it really sort of feels like thematically it's come from a very dark place. I know that probably sounds cliched and cheesy, but
Mm.
that's how they ended up sounding. And there weren't that many demos for this EP that weren't that sounded anything like Show Me the Signs off the last EP, which is very sort of ballady.
Do you can you put your finger on as to why that might have been the case, as to why you feel these tracks are darker, why they are a heavier sound?
Yeah, I mean, I probably can't speak too much for
Mm.
Ewan and Lewis, because Ewan writes the guitars and Lewis writes the vocals. And in terms of drums, like I guess I can hit drums harder if I'm angrier, but it's kind of I think there was various different things going on in their individual personal lives, which kind of brought out the darker side of the band. Um, we've all been through stuff over lockdown, pandemic, and also in our personal lives in general. And I think it kind of just when Ewan came up with the initial demos, Lewis decided to explore some darker themes. In terms, I know he had some personal grief himself, and that's outlined in one of the tracks of this album, of the CP rather. And I think it's just sort of a section of where everyone's head was at. But having said that, it's probably the most cohesive, like the band sounded in terms of songwriting, song structure, and things like that. It's definitely the most sort of where we want to be as a band, sound wise.
Amazing, because there is a clear evolution, of course. I mean, I'm very familiar with your work and I know this EP, and it is a simply astonishing piece of work. I always like to use this term: music this heavy shouldn't be this anthemic, and that is the summation of this EP, in my opinion. It's to see you guys evolve over such a short period of time as well, because, you know, it bears mentioning that you kind of really got started, and then we hit COVID and basically couldn't do anything for 2 years straight. So it's great that this year and the EP and download and all that has meant you're flying, basically.
Yeah, 100%. And I appreciate you saying that about the EP, because even though it probably is it is the heaviest stuff we put out there, we still kind of feel like it's still an evolution to how we were sounding previously, and we've still got those moments in it that is gonna, it's gonna make you bob your head, but then next minute want to punch your mate in the face and then apologize afterwards.
Rituals through and through. What was the most challenging for you personally, so in your part, but what was the most challenging aspect of making this record?
There was some of the drum parts on this EP were not difficult to record, but I wanted to try and put my stamp on things a little bit more, in terms of like bring a lot of influences of what I listen to. Like the band I was in prior to this were kind of like a faster sort of metalcore band, whereas this band is we've got some faster things, but there's a lot of groove sort of going on. So I quite wanted to put in some sections of crazy sort of double bass or fills or whatever, but then also explore some other sort of more open moments and try and experiment with different cymbals, different drum fills, and I had more time in the studio this time as well, so therefore there was more ideas. And the guy that we recorded drums with, George, he's really great with ideas as a producer. So I'd maybe go in with 2 or 3 ideas for a section, and then he'd be like, "Oh, why don't you try this?" And then he would explain it in that sort of drum talk that nobody else understands other than a drummer. And then I'd be like, "Brilliant, yeah, let's just go for that." So I was quite open-minded when it came to recording these tracks as well. I didn't go in thinking this is my part for this song and this is what I'm going to go with no matter what anyone says. I was sort of very open to other ideas, but then there was some parts where I was like, no, this is how it is and I'm not changing it.
Likewise, though, on that same aspect, but more from the enjoyable side of things, is there something that you look at and remember from the entire period, be it the writing, recording, mixing, whatever stage, that you just really enjoyed?
Well, I mean, in terms of recording the rest of it, the experience of going down to Marshall Studios was something I really, really enjoyed, because we all went down, even though I wasn't doing anything. We all went down there for the experience, and it's an incredible place because it's not only is it a studio, but it's attached to the sort of factory that everything at Marshall gets done at. And it was just great fun sort of being there, seeing the rest of the EP evolve, getting to sit about and chime in with ideas, and just be in that sort of environment, because the rest of the tracking was done and engineered by Tom Mitchener. So we got to work with him a little bit. And so that whole experience of being at Marshall was definitely something I'll remember 100%.
What did you have an initial discomfort, almost like, oh my God, we're here and we shouldn't be here, that kind of thing, imposter syndrome? Were you able to get quite comfortable immediately thinking, okay, we've earned this, we are this good and we deserve this?
Yeah, it was a strange one. We didn't really feel like we didn't belong there or anything. It definitely felt like it's like, yeah, this is what we want to be doing. We kind of just wish that we were there doing a whole sort of album from scratch. And that's what the hope is for the next one. Wherever we do that, we kind of hope that we can do everything in one place. Because that's really when ideas really start to come to light, when you're all working on the same thing from start to finish. Whereas how we did things previously was quite disjointed. We would just sort of, I would fit in drum tracking around when I was working or
Yeah.
etc. And the Ewan would do the guitars at home and then it would get reamped, that sort of thing. So it would be great to be able to be in the position where we can create a record when we're all in the same space and we've all got a certain amount of time to get the job done.
An incredible learning experience, Dan. Ultimately, that's only going to be stuff you can take away with you for the future. And it's funny because, like, when I got the email about you guys, about new EP and stuff like that, Marshall Records, I'm like, oh, cool, that seems like a great fit. I hadn't actually read the content of like explanation for it, but I thought, oh, that's a perfect fit. So it all makes
Yeah.
so much sense. You know, you do belong there. Did belong for this EP as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's great that, you know, Marshall, the amount of work and effort and everything that they've put into this release sort of shows from their end. And it's been a blast working with them. The EP's out on Thursday, obviously. And hopefully that relationship will continue.
Fingers crossed. But of course, until then, you have to push, you have to promote, you have to do your bit as well. That side of things is often the hardest part for a lot of bands, all bands in some ways. Jumping on social media, putting a life out there and talking about something non-stop. Do you feel as a group, Rituals, that you've got a good handle on this sort of modern expectation of being in a band, that you've got to do all these different social media platforms and get your videos out and get your TikToks out and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a TikTok actually, and we're trying to. It does okay. Like there was a video that was put out on there the other day of Lewis having a bit of a tantrum on stage, and that did
I
that.
saw that.
And it's like, it's funny to us, but it's just interesting how it would be perceived sort of by others. But TikTok's a weird one because it's very, very different to Instagram, and it's a completely different beast, completely different way that consumers take everything in. And that side of it, I'm not great at that, at the TikTok aspect of it, but the Instagram and Facebook and everything, we're all on the ball with that. And we've got a pretty good organic rota going on in our heads, where we know when somebody's at work or we know when somebody's going to be busy that day. So when we've got emails or social media things coming up, we'll just do it. And then the next time somebody else will just pick it up. Because we know how important it is. It seems crazy to spend so much time on social media, but that literally is the thing that showcases the band. It's what people spend most of their time on. But that's a wider subject. And it's kind of, back in the day, it used to be posters and queuing up at HMV to buy cassettes, but now it's kind of like posting things online and getting engagement. And so it's not just the music to push online, it's the band as a whole that people are invested in, you know.
It is in itself a full-time job. They exist, social media managers. You know, now we've got another one, we've got Threads. So you guys on Threads yet?
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
there you go. It's another one.
Lewis has been the one at the helm with that. I just dismissed the notification on mine because I was like, I don't need another app on my phone.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so 3rd of August, new video as well. That's what's next. But the rest of the year, do you have any plans you can talk about, but also stuff that you hopefully are able to do before the year's over?
Yeah, we are going to Ireland with our friends in Archives in August,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to, because I've never been to Ireland at all. I don't think any of us have,
Oh,
apart from
cool.
Ewan. So I'm really looking forward to going there and playing shows over there. After that, we do have some stuff coming up that we're actually not allowed to talk about yet.
Yep.
However, if you keep an eye on our social media, there we go. Tomorrow, there'll be something announced there tomorrow. I believe it's at midday. And there's also some other cool stuff that we have up our sleeves for either the end of this year or first part of next year. But I don't want to speculate because I don't want to get told off. But
No, absolutely. I
but
know
yeah,
how this works.
absolutely. But it's if it all comes off the way that we hope it's going to come off, it's going to be very cool. We're going to try and sort out another run of dates towards the end of this year as well. So we're discussing what that's going to look like with a couple of bands, etc. But we'll see how that comes off. But we're also going to be in the process of writing the next release, whatever that is. So it's still going to be busy.
But that's all I want to hear. As bad as it might sound, I want to hear that you're super, super busy. And there is stuff that you can't talk about because of whatever reason. It's great. It's super, super exciting. And I'm really happy. This year's been so good so far, and looks like it's going to continue that way. You deserve all this success.
Cheers, man. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate it.
No worries, man. I got one more for you, and really it's a reflective one or more that you can look back on 6 months down the line. So the end of the year, we'll look back at this release. What do you hope to be able to look back at it and potentially feel and think, okay, that was a success because of this?
Okay, so we kind of hope that it's going to reach a wider audience, like not in terms of that the sound's being diluted or anything, but in terms of just so that the music that we've created has managed to reach as many people as possible that could potentially like us. Because that's one of the struggles with it being a band at the moment, is certainly that there's so many really great bands out there. Pretty much on a weekly basis, I'm being sent or discovering a new band. It's like, how have I never heard of these? They've been around for like 10 years. Like, how have I never heard them? So it's trying to sort of be clever about that and try and build the following, essentially, purely so that we can keep on doing it, but also so that we can get to some places that we've not been yet. And it would, gaining a bigger following might plant a seed for us to hopefully get to sort of Europe or something next year. Which is another thing to take off the list that we've not managed to do yet. So I would say that would be a mark of success, is like, has this EP introduced us to people that haven't necessarily heard us before?
I hope so, and I can't see why it wouldn't, or why it can't have that success. You know, if you're watching this, listening to this, and you are a fan of Rituals, just shout about them, because that still exists as well. Shout as loud as possible, even if it's from a social media account, and get you guys not just to Europe, but back on festivals next year, back at Download, but on a bigger stage. Get you to Bloodstock, get you to Leeds and Reading, Glastonbury, anywhere, because that's the joy, I think, of Rituals as well, is that you can appear on almost any bill, on almost any stage with any other band and still fit in. It's the joy of listening to you. So thank you, Matt. I found myself in the dark, August 3rd via Marshall Records. Check this one out, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Absolutely, yeah. Cheers for having me. I've been checking out your website as well, and I've really I'm been enjoying sort of the inclusion of like horror movies into the music and stuff like that, because I'm big on me horror movies.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I'll certainly be keeping an eye out on what you've got coming up.
I have to ask you then, considering that it just got announced last week and a poster came out today, are you excited for Saw 10?
Oh, I thought you were going to mention The Exorcist there.
No, I've not seen the trailer yet. It flashed up and I thought I'll watch that another time. I'm not
Yeah,
ready to watch that, but no, Saw 10, yeah.
I am excited for Saw 10 because I actually don't care about the story or maintaining like the integrity of the original or anything, because I've actually enjoyed every single Saw movie apart from Spiral, I think, which
Okay.
I thought was just a bit of a miscast. But in terms of like gore, it's still hit the mark. But yeah, I think Saw 10 will be great fun, and they're probably going to have to amp it up in every way in order to get people interested. So,
Last great horror movie you saw then that you can think
oh,
off the top of your head?
um, well, I went to see a double bill of Eaten Alive and The Burning at the cinema
Wow.
because they've both just had like new remasters.
Yeah.
And like I think via Arrow, I think Arrow are going to be putting them out in 4K at some point, and just seeing The Burning on a big screen was great. And it's not a new one, but it's certainly one of the better slashers from that era. So
Yeah, it's quite an icon. I mean, they're both video nasties as well, part of the video nasty scare. So incredible. I hadn't seen The Burning until I think about 2 years ago because we did it for a video nasty series, and I love Burning. Burning is one of those forgotten classics, really.
yeah,
Eaten
yeah.
Alive, not so much.
No, it's just Eating Alive, just wild. I think we were just laughing through the whole thing. It's just a total nonsense, really. Toby Hooper, just like he was a wild guy.
I
Really.
feel like we could do horror all night. So we'll leave it there. Again, Matt, thank you so much. Best of luck for August 3rd.
Thank you very much. Yeah, cheers for having me. A pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?